Well, good afternoon, and welcome to this week's edition of Drive Facebook Live. I'm your host, Bob Spitz, with my partner, Tony Wisler, and our special guest today is Dan Vasquez of Performance Motorworks, as you can see. It's great to have you on, Dan.
Thanks, Bob. It's good to be on.
Yeah, we were just talking pre-show um, about some of the advantages of having a stage four shop and being able to take time with your family. And you've been able to do some of that lately. Is that right?
Yeah, I have. It's been really good. We got back from Las Vegas, and then 3 days later left for a trip up the Oregon coast in our camping trailer, and that's where I'm at right now in my trailer for this Facebook Live show. So, yeah, having a great time.
You're
So
you're on
just
the Oregon coast?
Yeah, I'm on the Oregon coast right now. We're in Bandon, Oregon, which is like southern Oregon coast.
Yeah. Southern coast. Yeah. Yeah, the Oregon coast is spectacular. Anybody who's never had that opportunity to travel the coast, you should do it. It's fantastic. You know, in the old days, you used to be able to drive all the way up on the beach from California all the way up to Washington.
Oh, wow.
You
That's
know, I
awesome.
don't know if you'd want to do that now, but those early people, they do all kinds of wild things.
So how long have you been away from your shop this time?
Let's see. I was gone for about 7 days in Vegas, and then, like I said, I came back for 3 days, and then I left. I'll be gone for 12 days total this time.
Yeah. And the shop is just running, right?
It is. Sometimes it does better when I'm not there. Sometimes it's good to.
Yeah, at first
I've
that
heard
can
that.
hurt your feelings, but then you
Yeah,
go, yes.
yeah.
Exactly.
It's one of those things you get over really quickly.
Yeah, that's like, when sometimes we have trouble prying an owner off the front counter. They
Hmm.
they don't want to trust their customers to anybody, and they don't think anybody could possibly handle the front better than they can.
Right.
And we finally pry them off the counter because you can't run a business from the counter. And they get someone in there and they realize how good that person is. And you say, well, do you want to go back in and run the front for a while? No,
Oh, no.
No.
No, thank you.
As, exactly. As soon as they're convinced that it's going to be better without them, then they realize, wow, why did I make myself go through that for so long?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. But the topic today, what we want to talk about is how do you transform a shop from its current state to a digital state? How do you make a shop a paperless shop? Now, we say paperless, but it's never totally paperless. But
Right.
how do you do that transformation? Because, Dan and you and I have talked about this a lot. The digital world isn't coming, the digital world is here.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. If you're looking to get ahead of the game, you're late, right? Because it's here. Luckily, I started back in 2018, and so we were a little bit ahead of the game at that point. And I remember, clients coming in and really being like, "Wow, this is unique. The way that this whole interface that you have, where it's sending us pictures, and I can, see everything on the car. This is wonderful." But now it really is the norm, and it's great, as far as the just the transparency of it all, and the way it really kind of invites the customer in to see what's going on.
Yeah. And I feel for the older shop owners who may not want to embrace it, but it's a little bit like anything in our industry. Change comes and you either embrace it or you get left behind. When I was a young technician, electronic ignition was first coming in, and the older techs wanted to have nothing to do with it. And I
Hmm.
just found it fascinating. It's an electronic set of points
You're
doing the
show,
same
you're
thing a
show,
set of points did.
you're showing your age, Bob.
Yeah, well, oh well. But when we talk about digital, Dan, and once again, we've talked about this, it's it's almost holistic. It's an entire universe. Everything from how you deal with customers to how you manage your finances and everything in between. the running of the shop. But I think it can get a little confusing because there seems to be, and every day I seem to get an email about some other new system or somebody else is jumping into the pool with their latest version of some kind of app to help a shop, and I think it can get a little bit confusing. But there are many different apps that a shop should consider and embrace in their quest to get their shop to be digital and get away from all that paper. So let's talk about that. What are some of the different apps that you've employed? You don't have to mention brand names, but what they do. What are some of the
Sure.
apps and what do they do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it all starts with the SMS, right? That's kind of where you have to start. Getting away from either paper, which I don't think there's too many people who are writing work orders on paper, maybe a few out there, but a lot of people have a computer SMS system, but it's not cloud-based, and so you have to be there to write a work order, and so getting some sort of a cloud-based SMS system, I think, is a great start, and being able to attach photos and videos and do that that quote unquote DVI, that digital video inspection on the vehicles, and that alone has just proven to bring in more net profit right off the bat, just implementing that. But I think you kind of you look at your overall workflow and what you're doing and what you're doing well, just like anything else, and you try to take that and digify it, and then you look at what could be improved on, but by taking it digital, and you don't want to make the mistake of trying to recreate exactly what you already have. Otherwise, you're not moving forward. You're just kind of digifying everything that you have. So it's kind of both. You kind of start by getting digital, and then you say, well, how can I take it to the next level from here? And so, like we talked about, start with the SMS. Look at your QuickBooks or whatever your financial software is. Look at getting that cloud based.
Well,
And
let's just stop right there
yeah,
for a second
yeah, sure.
and let's talk about what do you expect a current SMS to do? What should an SMS do in this digital world?
Yeah, yeah. So I expect that it's going to be cloud based, that I can run it from any device that I own. So whether it be, a PC or a laptop or a cell phone or a tablet, I want it to work and view properly on all those devices. I want to be able to write work orders. I want to be able to have some sort of DVI either built in or maybe a third party attached to it. In my case, it's all one. It's all built in, and I really enjoy it.
Now,
Um,
now hold on a second. When you say DVI, are you talking about DVI and digital workflow or strictly a DVI?
right now, what I'm talking about is strictly the DVI, that courtesy inspection, that digital inspection that we always talk about, that most of us are already doing. I definitely want that to be digital and cloud based, and then I want to be able to interface with the customer via text and email. And then I'd like to do it through the SMS. I'd like it to all be in one spot. So, for example, I don't want to have to get out my phone and text the customer, hey, I have an update for your, on your vehicle, Mr. or Mrs. Customer. I want to be able to do it right from within my SMS, all in one handy, GUI, if you will.
Right. And then you mentioned QuickBooks.
Yeah.
So what does the interface look like between your SMS and QuickBooks?
Well, for me, it was mainly about, so when I first kind of had this mindset towards going digital, it was before I had started with Drive, and so for me, it was I want to be able to work from anywhere. So I want to be able to see everything from anywhere. And so I want my QuickBooks to be online. I want my SMS online, et cetera. And now, obviously, now that I've been working with Drive for a while, or I should say, Drive has been working on me. Now I'm like, I don't want to work from anywhere. I want to go unplug somewhere. But it started with that, and so so having QuickBooks online, being able to see your financials, run financials from anywhere, is great. And then again, once you do get it online and get it cloud based, and your SMS is cloud based, Well, most of the popular SMSs now will sync with that. It'll push your labor and your part sales right over to QuickBooks Online, and it really simplifies the bookkeeping quite a bit by doing it that way. So that's another level that you can jump to. But again, I don't necessarily recommend that you do it all at once. I would say you do it in stages of what you're comfortable with, and learn and master each stage as you go.
in each app.
In each app, correct? Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And like you were saying, try not to get clouded by 50,000 apps. New ones are coming out every day, and I have people, calling me with their sales pitches as well to switch CRMs or this or that. And you can really like you don't want to fix what isn't broken. And so if you get a digital system in and it's working for you,
And
then
your
you
techs
really
like it.
yeah, and your technicians and your employees, your service advisor, if everybody likes it, why would you change that? You can certainly consider it, but I would take baby steps towards that for sure.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that's what I've done. That's what I've done at my shop.
Well, I
Now,
love the philosophy that you say that you don't fix something that's not broken, kind of
yeah.
a vibe. It's very important. Like huge wholesale changing for the sake of changing is not necessarily a good idea. But if you're trying to get to a place where you want to be digital, then obviously some of those changes are going to have to happen. Just the ones that actually fix stuff, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
now, a couple of your friends are watching, Travis Saley
Hey,
There
Travis.
you go. There
and
you
Dave
go.
Jennerjohn.
Hi, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Travis is fairly well along being digital. You were up at his shop recently, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. He's got a pretty digital shop, and they have a great workflow. They're a beautiful shop, everybody knows, but they also have what people may not know is they have a really great workflow. He's got a couple just amazing service advisors up front, and their estimating process is digital and super slick. Those guys are really on top of it.
Yeah, that's what it takes to be efficient. Now, you mentioned your interface between your SMS and QuickBooks. How much of a challenge was that? Because mapping from your SMS to QuickBooks isn't just one, two, three. It takes really understanding how to set up your chart of accounts, doesn't it?
It does. So, and I should clarify, I haven't made the full switch there yet. I'm at the stage where I do have my QuickBooks Online and I have my SMS fully digital. I have not set up the link yet. I'm working. So my goal for that is in June. I'm going to be doing that. And so because there's a lot of work that goes into that, and it took a while to get my chart of accounts exactly how I wanted it. And we're there now. I've got a really clean financial reports, which is also very important. And that's something that Drive helped me to set up and get together.
That's great. Now, one of the things that I've noticed in a lot of shops, particularly older ones, one of the areas where you can go from paper to not paper is just in your playbook or in your policies and procedures and your manuals. Um, can you tell me a little bit about that process? You went from paperless to digital on that as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I never really went and tried or attempted to do a paper playbook. Anybody who knows me knows that there's not a lot of paper around my shop at all. You'd be hard pressed to find a sheet of paper, but I was I was doing it, in other cloud systems like Google Drive initially, and that was before the Playbook app really had come out. And so once the Playbook app was released, and I was able to kind of see how that works, well, I was pretty excited about that. And at the same time, I'll say that it was pretty daunting, even for me being very digital. And I know that a lot of the drive shops, they get a little bit intimidated by the Playbook app, and so I understand that. But one of the reasons I love actually instructing the Playbook workshop is because I'm able to help people to kind of get through that intimidation factor. Because once you get through that, you'll see that it's just an amazing app, and it makes it so easy to train and onboard employees. And that's probably one of the biggest things that's helped me in my shop is the Playbook app in particular, and the way that you can just immediately get policies and procedures out to your staff.
Right.
Yeah.
And just for everyone to know, Dan, while being a very successful business owner, is also one of Drive's wonderful instructors, and we love having him on the team. And he does generally always teach that class. He teaches others as well, but that developing shop playbooks workshop, he's the man for that one.
Yeah, he's very, very good. I read the surveys after every workshop that everybody does, and Dan has got straight fives, fives out of fives, and that's very
Yep.
much appreciated. By the way,
Yes.
John Starkey in Hawaii is watching, and Mark Granham from Mobile Mark on the other side of the world in Florida says hi. And Travis says your check is in the mail for mentioning his shop.
Very
Hey guys, glad
nice.
you're here.
Yep.
Now, one of the concerns before the cloud existed, one of the big concerns all shops had was backing up that system, backing up that customer database. And for a while, in fact, if you contracted with one of the SMS providers and you cut off your association with them, you lost your customer database. It
Mm.
Right.
was like a real scary thing. Uh, so, we used to have this whole process of backups every day, a tape this day, a different tape this second day, so that you never lost more than a day. Now, with the cloud, are you still having to do that kind of backup?
Well, no, that's one of the nice things is I actually have downsize my networking gear, where I used to have two redundant servers at the shop, and a NAS, which is a network attached storage for saving files locally. I retired both of those servers. I still have the NAS, but it gets used a lot less. Like you said, I used to do daily backups every night, of the day before my daily close, so that if something happened, if something were to crash, that I wouldn't lose all that data. And I'm comfortable now, with things being hosted in the Amazon cloud with a 99.9, percent uptime. I'm pretty comfortable with my data. There's nothing's foolproof, but you can't think of the worst. You try to prepare for what could happen, but I'm pretty comfortable not doing those daily backups anymore like I used to.
Very cool.
Yeah, yeah, because that was always a major concern. And, in the old days, we used to have those nightmares of shops failing to back up and then everything goes away. Or worse, the shop had a fire or something and they lost everything. And so understanding how the cloud works and being secure with that is obviously a huge step forward in shop management. Oh, and we have another, Shay Hinkle says hello.
Hi, Shay.
Good to
Yeah,
see y'all.
that's good that you're all on. Now, okay, so we've covered if you're going to go digital, first get a really good SMS and learn it. Really learn it. Because one of the
Hmm.
problems we've seen in the past is folks will get an SMS and they'll learn it to its lowest common denominator or its most basic functions, and yet they'll do so much now, right? So
Right.
get the SMS, really learn how to use that system. If you've got a DVI that your technicians love to use, by golly, don't change. Because as we know, technicians can be very reactionary. They don't like change. And trying
Right.
to get them to change is not a fun thing. So we've got the DVI, we've got the SMS, we've got QuickBooks. What's the next app that you suggest a shop should look at?
I would probably start looking at some type of a CRM, that's going to tie in with your SMS. So some kind of a tool that's going to potentially, let's say, send your customers a text message a day later after their service, and is going to reach out to them and maybe prompt them to give you a 5-star review on one of the review sites, Google, Yelp, etc. And also something that's going to keep in touch with them, several months down the road, reminding them about those oil changes or whatever it might be. And there's tons of those to choose from, of course. So you're definitely not limited in that space, but you definitely want to find something that works for you, and something that is pleasing to your customers that isn't going to turn them off, of course.
Right.
Now, does your CRM, is it driven off of your SMS when it comes to the customer database? so that we don't end up with different names, different addresses. So there's only entry, data entry. You only ever want to do data entry once,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Anytime you got to do it twice, there's a chance for a mistake. So how does your CRM work with your SMS?
Yeah, so my CRM, well, first of all, my SMS has a lot of third-party integrations that are available with a lot of the popular, other, vendors that you would use, like bolt-on technology and things like that. And so my particular CRM does interface directly via a third-party integrator with my SMS. And so again, the customer data is a two-way sync between the SMS and the CRM so that you're not getting that, like you said, duplicate data or having to go and manually enter it into the CRM, after a customer leaves. And so it's tied into the point where you set the time that you want after a work order actually gets closed out, or the car gets picked up, that they actually get a SMS, sorry, a short message, a text message, saying that, how was your service, and things like that. And then also looking at the work that was done on the car and having an algorithm to reach out via email or text and remind them that they have, service upcoming.
So do the recommended repairs or the deferred or declined work, does that stay in the SMS or does that transfer over to the CRM?
That stays in my case, it stays in the SMS. There are different ways to do it, but it stays in the SMS. And then the next time the customer comes in, or anytime you go into their account, you can see any what they would call postponed recommendations. And so the customer comes back in 6 months for an oil change or whatever they have come back in for. It's very clear to see and very easy to remind them, last time you were in, we noticed your brakes were getting a little bit low, and we gave you a quote for those. We're going to go ahead and update that quote, and we'll get another look at it. Get another look at those brakes while it's here today. So that kind of sales tool is really, really good.
Right. So if I'm sending out reminders out of my CRM, that information about we recommended a brake job last time you were here, that's pulling from the SMS into the CRM into that message.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God. What a great,
I know, right? Yeah.
brave new world.
It's a beautiful thing, and it really does. It's like you said. Get to learn your SMS and really look at everything that's available to you, because you don't want to pay for a Ferrari and drive it like a Honda, right? And
Right.
so here you're behind the wheel of a Ferrari, but you're not using any of the CRM features. You're not doing online scheduling. You're not doing digital vehicle inspections. Well, what was the point of changing SMS, and what's the point of buying that Ferrari if you're not going to drive it? That's the way I
Yeah,
look
Right.
at
leaving
it.
it in first gear.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
Although you'll go
And
60 miles an hour in first gear, but
Yeah, yeah, true.
I have a question about that. Was tech support a factor in your decision making on the type of software you were purchasing? Because
And
obviously it's always been important to me. Like
yeah,
if I know that the tech support is going to be good, I would go in that direction.
yeah, I would say a couple of things. Tech support, and then also, you want ongoing R&D. You want ongoing updates to it as well. And that's where, some people get put off by paying for subscriptions, and that whole, subscription plan. And obviously it does have its negatives, but the positive is when you're paying for a subscription, you're also paying for a dev team who's going to continue evolving that software. And so I think that's important as well. And yeah, so definitely it's something you want to look at. What's the tech support like? How does that work? What's the response time? What's the onboarding training going to be like? What does that look like? Those are questions that you want to ask, whatever company you're thinking about doing business with. And then again, how often are they pushing out updates? What's the history of the updates look like? Because that's equally as important, I would
Yeah,
say.
Yeah.
absolutely. Now, another important part of becoming digital, because you mentioned your scheduler in your
Mhm.
SMS, I'm on your website, which is
Mhm.
another key point of becoming digital,
Yes.
and I decide to set an appointment, which I can do through your website.
Hmm.
How does that tie into your SMS, or is that somewhere else that shows up?
It does. It ties directly into my SMS. It actually will it'll pull the customer's info if they're a new customer, or it will determine if they're an existing customer, and it'll actually pre-write a estimate in their name, and it'll put it on for that date.
Oh my God.
And yeah,
Now,
yeah. So
I've seen some shops that like to keep a service advisor between those two things. They want to make sure that
mhm.
before the person winds up on the calendar that the service advisor has control of that. Do you have that type of an element, or will the customers just put themselves right into open slots?
Yeah, so I block slots that I don't want to be I limit the amount of slots each day, and I limit the times that people can book, but then we do let them book. Now the key part that we do is we communicate with the customer before they show up. So just because they booked an appointment doesn't mean that one of my service advisors was not reaching out to them, confirming the appointment, making sure that we have all the relevant details, making sure it's a job that we're willing to do, things like that. So it
You
doesn't
mean you
just
don't want to
stop with
work on
them.
my R25?
Yeah, exactly. It's a beauty, but I don't know that. I think we're going to respectfully decline.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, we have a number of announcements to
Yes,
make. I
we
think we're going
do.
to start our station break a minute early here because you got
We
a number
are.
of things to go through. Otherwise, Carolyn's going to be chasing you.
That's right. So the first thing and the most important thing is that Dan will be at the expo this year, and he will be delivering a presentation called the Paperless Shop, and it's going to be wonderful. So if you, it's a one thing you want to actually experience when you come to the expo. He's going to get into it for about an hour or so, and there's going to always have Q&A afterward. And so it's very similar to a little bit of what we talked about here, but we're going to dig a little deeper, and it's going to be great. And so that will be happening. We don't have an exact time slot for that weekend, but I will say if you don't know anything about the the Expo is a wonderful event that we do every year, and we're going to be doing it this year in beautiful Las Vegas. And it's going to be the 18th, 19th, and 20th of September. And during those 3 days, we're going to be delivering this presentation along with many, many other stuff, other things that we're going to be doing during that expo. I'm excited about the expo. I will just throw out there that I'm hoping that we can have Dan play some drums for us while he's there too.
I would love it.
And
I
you'll
would
bring your
love it.
bass?
I will bring my bass.
Now,
I'll
Carolyn, I believe, created a one sheet promoting that event, and at the bottom of that one sheet, they can actually click on it to register.
and there's a link in the chat right now that Carolyn has in there. So if you just go to that link, it'll take you straight to that landing page for the paperless shop. And if you can read all about it, you can see Dan's beautiful face. And then at the bottom, you can register for the expo. It'll take you straight to the expo registration. And you can also hit a button that'll take you straight to the registration for the hotel.
Right, and it's
So
online. It's not a sheet, it's online.
yeah, it's online. It's a
Yeah.
landing page, and it's a link, and it's but if you lose the link or something, you can just go to drive-expo.com. That's our expo page, and then you can just look through till you surf around there, have some fun on that site. It's a beautiful site, and then you can find it there. And
Good.
then also, I want to mention next Friday's show. Next Friday, May 16th, we're going to have Drive Client Mark Showalter of Advanced Towing and Automotive of Vernal, Utah, which I love Utah. I've spent some time there. And he'll be our special guest. And that is you and me, right, Bob? That's you and me on that show?
I guess. I think so.
Okay, good.
I'm sure I'll find out.
It's always, it's the A team. So anyway,
That's right.
yeah. So that is, I think those are all my announcements,
All right.
unless Carolyn has something to say.
Well, No, and we're at the 1 o'clock hour. Dan, we could easily talk about this for another hour. And that's why I
Easily.
want folks to come to the expo where they have a chance to do Q&A with you on this vital subject of the future is now. So I want to thank you so much for joining us, Dan. And from all of us at Drive Facebook Live, we hope you have a great afternoon and a fabulous weekend. And Dan should have had to talk about the presentation. Oh, well, I shouldn't be reading what Carolyn is sending to me, but
That's how they make the sausage, Bob.
that's how they make the sausage. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.